it's a milestone. I want to show the doctor. Look at you.
Okay,
you did that all by yourself.
I have to go turn on the lights.
Yeah, you did that all by yourself. Do it again. Nana's so proud. Where are you?
There he is.
Can't see. Here we go. Come on. Don't be camera shy. Come on, I want to show the hip doctor that you can sit up by yourself. Come on. Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go. Look what you did.
And we taught how you did it.
Oh, you're amazing. You did a good job. Good boy. Yeah. You're so proud of yourself, aren't you? Are you proud of yourself? We're proud of you. Yes, we are. Yeah, we love you too. Yes, we do. Oh, you gonna do it again? Come on. It's important for the doctor, for the hip doctor, to see that you can do this. Come on. I'm not helping you. You did it. You surprised everybody. You're the Houdini baby. Come on. See, that's the thing. Just all of a sudden, one day, boom. Oh, yeah. You did it. Okay. What are you doing? Amari. Amari. What are you doing? Amari. Come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I want to see you do it again. Come on, you can sit up more than that.
Is that thing calming, actually?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, well, when you were talking loud, I heard something saying calming.
Oh.
I'll be right back.
He was listening to cartoons earlier, and they were screaming and hollering and doing whatever, and he was mimicking the same sounds, people. Yeah, you did it. Hi. 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 Hi, Amari. You're getting big. Yes, that's amazing. I like it when you sit up like that. Yes, that's a milestone. Getting more and more stronger, more and more confident, more and more determined, more and more successful at doing things like that. Good boy. Nana loves you. Amari, what are you doing? Amari. 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 You just playing peekaboo? Are you playing peekaboo? What's that? Oh, it's Andre.
Marky did not call me yet. So you want to watch this?
Just hold on. Andre says, Nana, look what Amari did. Look, see? Do you see how he's getting good at it, people? As long as he's at the right angle with a little bit of support, right? You got more independence, don't you? Huh? Yeah. Good boy. Amari. Come on, give me one more giggle. Nana wants a giggle. Amari. Amari. Come on. Giggle. You're such a handsome boy.
Maybe if I make the turkey sound, you'll giggle?
Yeah, you're a handsome boy. He's actually very handsome, people, don't you think? I think he's just handsome. Yeah, handsome. Hold on a minute. Handsome. Mr. Handsome.
What about me?
Okay, so now it's May 5th, 2021. It's like, I don't know, 7:45 in the morning. I've been up since like 5:30 in the morning. Oh, it's because I crashed earlier in the evening and I just force myself to sleep. And then once my body gets enough sleep, I guess you could call it, because don't forget this ringing and pressure in my head. So sometimes when I get up, my ears are just screaming. I have all this fluid in my nose and I have to turn my head upside down and, you know, let my sinuses drain and blow out my nose and pop my ears. You know, it takes me anywhere from half an hour to an hour just to clear my fucking head in terms of all that high-pitched ringing and stuff, because when you're sleeping, you're like, you know, I can take go in the bathtub, go underneath the water with my head, and I hear. But I think a lot of it is pain related to these teeth here, right? Because the nerves, they need to have pulled out, or root canals. I bet you if I had that done with several teeth on this side, I think a lot of this would go away. Maybe not all of it, but I think a large portion of it would. But besides that point, because I have one root canal in there, and everything that way, you know, when I'm brushing, I can really feel the nerves and stuff. And okay, so I'm going to keep this short, right? You've seen Amari sitting up on the couch, right? You know, we have an appointment with the hip doctor this month. So, you know, I've got that video with him on the bed, you know, doing right with his legs, right? Which for a child in his situation is extremely, extremely good, right? In terms of a milestone. You can see, right? He's sitting up on his own as long as he's got a little bit of support behind his back just to give him that right angle where he can actually do it for himself. If he's laying flat, he can't do it, right? He can't. He just can't do it. And his body, his torso is actually heavy because he doesn't have full control of it, people, right? And like with just the whole how the body works in terms of movement. But, you know, doing that to the amount that he's been starting, and he's getting more stronger with it and just more confident with it, just the whole 9 yards, right? In a few more years, like, okay, if somebody or a child is doing that, okay, right? I mean, clearly, somehow, some way, the hips are involved, right? Because my goal is to not have them have hip surgery. I know. Why are you talking about hip surgery at 8 o'clock, 7:30, and 8:45, or quarter to 8 in the morning? Because it's on my mind all the time, right? That's why. Because I don't want Amari having unnecessary surgeries simply because a surgeon can book it in, right? They're a surgeon, right? They're a doctor, quote unquote. And based on whatever their opinions are, or biases, or this is why you want a second opinion, oftentimes, okay? Just because the person has the title of a doctor in front of their name doesn't mean that they're ethical, all right? So in light of Amari's situation, you know, it's easy to exploit the healthcare system and the taxpayers booking in appointments or surgeries, you know, in this case, right, where, you know, it may not be necessary. But based on general statistics, it would be easy to say, well, this child needs this because out of all these other children like him, a good 80% needed it. And because, you know, 80% needed it, we'll just throw Amari into that pile and nobody will know the difference. In the meantime, Amari's body, after the fact, would have been altered for life. And perhaps be in a worse situation than what he is in right now. Okay? And that's how shady the healthcare system is, people. They take people's health situations and they mold them and form them to suit the healthcare's system, the bureaucracy of that system, to suit their needs, their financial needs, their budget, right? Versus what's in the best interest of the patient. So if they can get $250,000, we'll just say, okay, I don't know, $100,000, $80,000. How much is hip surgery? $40,000. If they can get $40,000 easy, just by booking in an appointment or like a surgery, right? Based on 80% of those types of cases versus the 20% that didn't need it, right? The system itself is going to want that $40,000 and make it 81% before it would make it 19%. 21%, right? because it's just the way it is. I can prove that. I can prove that with Uncle John. I can prove that with ShaMay. I can prove that with Ciera. It's already on track with Amari, so why would it be any different when it comes to that time? It wouldn't, right? Unless, of course, you know, you can show that, hey, you cut his hips, because what it is the hip bone goes into the socket, right? And because he doesn't stand on his feet like we do and walk and everything else, there's no pressure, right, in holding it in. So after a while, it starts to slip out, and then the cartilage in the inside starts to die, right? And once the cartilage is gone, you can never apparently replace it. And then with that happening, that's where it leads to pain. And then doctors cut the bone, and they let that just float around. Whoops, sorry. They let that just float around because it's been cut apparently here. That's from my understanding. As a grandmother to my grandson, why would I want that, people? Okay? Because once that is floating around, how is he gonna do this? Do what? How is it possible for him to do that once they sever the bone? How is it going to be possible for him to sit up and have his legs at least work a little bit in that process if the bone is cut, right? So I have panic attacks all the time around the future of my grandchild because, you know, I don't trust the healthcare system. I don't, people. It was the healthcare system who injured Amari. It was the healthcare system who injured ShaMay. It was the healthcare system who injured Ciera. It was the healthcare system who injured Uncle John. Not to mention the bullshit that we went through before all those injuries occurred. Okay? So anyway, I don't want to get into that too much, okay? That's not really what I wanted to talk about. But that's why I put these little videos up where you can see him sitting up or whatever, because, you know, the doctor can't, I'm going to put them on a flashlight drive, those little clips. I'll reformat them just to individual little clips. And, you know, when he's got time, he can look at it and, you know, he's got a fair assessment versus, well, this is what he does. Well, no, you can see what he's doing. And realistically, once you cut his bone, because they say they're going to anyway, right? They gave me these leg braces that we don't use because he doesn't like them, okay? And what they were meant for was, and it was an experimental, something that they've only been doing for the last 10, 15 years. So it wasn't anything that was like, it's hard science, right? You're right, they're still learning what happens if they put children to bed every night for their whole lives for 18 fucking years like this for at least 8 hours so that the hips stay in the hip joint, okay? You imagine yourself going to bed for 18 years like this, with your feet spread out like this on your back, and you can't move until somebody comes and releases you. Based on, well, it's still an experiment. We haven't quite figured out what's going on. We think it's going to prevent surgery. But they were still talking about fucking surgery, right? They say around 5, 6, 7 or something like that. Like, you know, he's 3.5, going on 4 soon. Right? He's showing clearly no pain. Right? He's clearly showing improvement in terms of mobility and strength. Right? So why would you want to interrupt that based on that 80% that you think should have had it? They had it. And, like, what are the consequences around it, people? He won't be able to sit up. He won't be able to kick his legs. Okay? And he'll probably be in pain. To some degree. From not being mobile. He goes to bed, he moves around like everybody else. Okay, in terms of you toss, you turn, you curl up, you stretch out, right? He does all that in bed, right? He didn't like those, he cried, fussed, whatever, right? Clearly it was stunting his growth, okay? It was preventing him from moving around and just moving around, exercising and learning to use his muscles and, and whatnot, right? It prevented him from gaining strength in the areas that actually do work for him in terms of muscles and, that kind of stuff, right? He doesn't like to stand. I try and hold him, like pick him up, put him on his legs, and once in a blue moon, he'll put a little pressure, but outside of that, he just kind of like that. But you can see that, he can really get the momentum going on that one. Like, I don't know how that doesn't compute in his head, right? What is it? Is his right leg, or is it his left leg? He's a lefty. It's the right side that's tight. I think his right foot curls in. But the thing is, and I pointed this out at one point, right? Because, leg braces, right? Well, I guess this is about Mari. Leg braces, okay? They gave me these little things that, I use on the right leg because it's curling in, okay? That's just Amari. You have to learn to love Amari for Amari, okay? You can't change something necessarily just because it doesn't look good to you, but it works for him, okay? He moves around. The thing is, I think he's bow-legged, and I pointed this out. As a matter of fact, I'll point this out to this hip doctor, okay? I think Amari is naturally bow-legged, all right? But because of the brain damage, the right side tends to tighten up a little bit, so it curves in a little more. So, this little foot thing that they have, it doesn't solve that problem because it's almost like the whole, like I have leather and I should really just try and make just a makeshift little leathers. I don't know how to make it where he could actually bend and be comfortable and right, and you can adjust the tension. We are supposed to see those people that make leg braces the specialty kind, but because of what the government's been doing, that's all been put off onto the back burner, okay, for the most part, which is like okay, but that's in the mixed. But at the end of the day, it's not going to ever solve Amari's core problems in terms of he'll never be able to walk people unassisted, if at all, okay? Right? And so sometimes you just have to come to terms with things and just help him to develop his mobility as best as he can. And that's why at some point I'm going to have to get him a king-size bed. A king-size bed is more practical than that for 18 years, okay? Just so he can have, straight legs. They would have still given him an operation for the hips, right? Because what they were doing was kind of experimental. They've only been doing it for 15 years. So like I said, the hard science hasn't come out on it yet. But they've always been preparing me every time I say, well, hip surgery. Does he have pain? No. Oh, really? Yeah, no, he does. Oh, well, don't forget, we're still monitoring for hip surgery. Which just makes me think, because the more that they can put him in that monkey tube, the more they can control him. And because of his situation, he can't fight back people. That's the thing. I'm not saying they're putting him in a monkey tube, but when they start cutting into him and cutting bones and clipping this and clipping that, not only are they traumatizing him, right, in terms of each and every time he has to go through that experience, and Amari's very sensitive, okay, they're altering things that they can't guarantee 100% that it's going to be effective and there won't be dire consequences after the fact. Okay? And just because they say it's something that should be done based on that 80% statistic, as they ignore the other 20% that didn't have those so-called surgeries or whatever, right, doesn't mean that they're right in terms of their diagnoses. So I have that little battle going on in the background, right, in terms of, and that's another reason why I advocate so hard for ShaMay, Amari, right? Okay, I don't want to get into all that, okay? So what was I going to say? Oh, yes, I remember now. I'll leave it on this. Today, I'm just going to put everything in an envelope for the government. And I have to go to the post office anyway, because I did my taxes. I have to do Ciera's taxes yet. So I'll get on that this week, get that done. I have to pull up her death certificate. So I'm going to start rearranging these binders, labeling binders that I don't have labels on, so I don't have to look all the time to see what's inside the binder. I don't know. And then Lady P, Unconditional Love. I just call her Lady P, okay? We had a little chat there. Where is she from? Oh, God. Arizona? Oh, I don't know if it was Arizona. Can't remember, people. Short-term memory is getting affected from all this stress. Anyway, where is it? Here we go. Oklahoma. Okay, right? That's Oklahoma. Right? So anyway, I told her I'd send her one of Auntie ShaMay's books. Right? But I'm only going to do it through regular mail. And she suggested I look into an alkaline diet a bit more for Amari, and I'm like, oh, what's an alkaline diet, right? Anyway, she says she eats a lot of vegetables and stuff like that, right? So I'll look for like a little vegan cookbook or something that's more vegetable based, right? I'm going to pop that in the mail, just the book by itself, regular mail. And I'm thinking to try and maybe get Lucy's box in the mail, and then all we have is April's box, right? Because I still haven't gathered up those stamps and stuff. But Lucy's, because I got to remove these boxes out of my sewing room, right? And that plant needs to be, that tree, I don't know, it's starting to bloom leaves. But if you send it fast, it's just a Kitamat, shouldn't take that long to get there. By the time you get it, Lucy, you could put it in the ground and it should catch, right? It should. Better to get it in now versus in a month or two, because even if it's growing over the summer and then it goes into dormancy, it could, not survive. Because I have a few planter pots out here that some of these trees did not survive. But then sometimes I wonder what creeps my yard. I really do, people. And that's another thing that this government needs to think about. By doing what they've done over the years has really put my family at risk to, I say, what, the predator class? The predator class doesn't necessarily have to mean those that have wealth. It could be just somebody that's off the wall and, is never held to account to their stalking behavior that could potentially lead to a dangerous situation. So, when I see a dead tree, I take it with a grain of salt, because I'm just wondering, You know, with all this spitefulness around me sometimes, if somebody isn't doing something, even Andre says, you know, they're pouring what? Into the dirt. Ciera said it too one time. Said something's going on with the dirt, Mom. There's something in the dirt. Somebody's putting something in the dirt. So anyway, I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm thinking maybe I should go out to the greenhouse and get to that little plant, dig it up. I have the box, everything. I have to go to the post office, right? So I could probably do Lucy's box today. Well, get it ready, right? Like, just because the box is there, and then I have another little box just for the tree itself to sit nice in there. And being that I have to go to the post office, just pop those in the mail, because I have that money from, you know, my credit card, right? So here's my opportunity to mail them out. That $200 that I paid for that trial, I was going to try and use a bit of that to mail some of this out. So, you know, it works out in the end anyway. And then I have April's box, right? And then just keep plugging away at it, people. Right? That's all I can do right now. Oh, yes, and then I'm thinking maybe somebody, I don't know who, should start a GoFundMe for these court fees. Okay? Because when I was paying for the, or when I was handing in the documents, the fella at the court registry, you know, he's suggested I get legal counsel, and I'm like, I just went like that. And he goes, oh, you know, you have to go here to read up on how to do a trial, right? And, like, I don't know what I have to pay for in terms of the courtroom, right? So I'm thinking maybe somebody should start a GoFundMe. I don't know who. My son can't do it because it affects his taxes. And because he has student loans from back in the day when he was younger going to college, it, you know, it tips him over, right? I don't know how a charitable GoFundMe can affect people's taxes, but I guess it does. Right? I can't put it in my name because I'm on social assistance and I'm only allowed a one-time large donation versus little donations coming in. And anything I try and do when it comes to stuff like that, it doesn't work for me anyway. So if somebody's not trying to shut down the GoFundMe, like back in the day when I was fighting for Andre, right? I tried doing GoFundMe for a lawyer with Andre, and it got shut down through GoFundMe, right? I don't know why, because you weren't allowed to fundraise for lawyers. How does that work? Right? And I have some little account somewhere that I set up for ShaMay, but I actually never really provide the link. I should probably get into it and go see if it's still there. It's something out here that allows you to do fundraising. And that would just go for court costs and maybe a paralegal assistance. But before you'd get a paralegal assistance, you'd have to pay for the court itself, right, in terms of trial. Right? Because so far, I'm like, well, what does a lawyer want for $50,000 that, you know, like, it really hasn't costed that much to file for a trial? Right? You know, I'm like, I want to know why they need $50,000 to represent this situation. It was too easy, right? Didn't cost that much. Yet, people. I'm going in blind. Right? So, I mean, for all I know, it could cost $20,000 just for the courtroom. So I'm like, oh, well, you better get up on that GoFundMe soon, right? But who's going to set it up? What, my landlady? Ask my landlady to do it? Oh, she wouldn't know how. She wouldn't. Right? Ask the board director to do it for me? No, he doesn't want to get involved in that. You know, he's not that he agrees with what's been going on. It's just, that's kind of like a conflict of interest to the foundation, and being that he's a board director and he's completely at arm's length with me as an individual in terms of whatever, right? Like his standing as a board director, so I can't ask him to do that for me. I could ask him to do it for the foundation, but I couldn't ask him to do it for me, right? So that's a no-go. Tisha can't do it, right? I don't get out with enough people to have, a group of friends where I could ask one of my friends. That's not going to happen. So anyway, I'm like, well, we could ask Truth for Reality. Let him start the GoFundMe. He can manage it. Right? But that's like, why would he want to, first of all? Right? That's a big responsibility. I don't know. I'm not worrying about money right now, okay? I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, right? We got a year and a half, and that's another thing I'm thinking, like, why did you pick September? It's so long away. April was too soon, right? July, just, September, just, my grandkids' birthdays are in that month. You have to remember, they're orphans, people. The government is rejecting orphans. Okay? Like, who does that? Reject orphans and then say, we represent you. We're here to help you. Not one orphan, but two. So that's kind of why I chose that. It wasn't because I was trying to push it off. Because I don't want to push it off. Right? April would have been 9 months from now. Well, no, 11. 11 months from now. I mean, I could have chose that one. But honestly, I got a little scared. That's like, ooh. Right? That's like soon. And, I wanted to just give myself a little more time to gather up, to make sure. Because unlike the government, I don't have paralegals helping me. I don't have lawyers helping me. I don't have a bottomless piggy bank pit, right? In terms of putting my hand into the piggy bank and pulling out all this money to pay all these people and to pay for all these resources, paper, this, that, the court, everything, just so that I can abandon orphans, okay? And then come back and say, we're here to help you. If they're here to help people, then they should help. And start making it where children don't become orphans. And there's things that they can do within their system to help with that situation. And that's the whole point of this exercise. This will provide them a means to build in new legislation to help to protect families, okay? Regardless of who's in that family and from where that family comes from. Whether it's the elderly in the family, whether it's the children in the family, whether it's the youth in the family, whether it's the parents in the family, okay? Because it gives them, it gives them authority to change things and to bring in new crews to make sure that their children are doing their jobs. Okay, and I'm going to leave it on this note because I don't want to get on a tangent, but if the government is willing to go the mile and a half, okay, and then get to the end where it can say, okay, it's apparent we have a problem. Now we need to, in our next budget, right, build in safety nets to ensure that whatever happened to my family, okay, doesn't happen to other families by bringing in, I don't want to call it a new workforce, but by bringing in an added workforce to monitor what should have been monitored in the first place. Because clearly what's going on in our healthcare system isn't being monitored properly in terms of when it comes to criminal activity. And if the government doesn't deal with that problem, people, it's going to continue. And you're going to have more orphans with the government saying, we don't care, basically, until we are ready to help you on our terms, not on your terms. We don't care how you got there, right? We don't care what happened and, right? And do you see? I cut it off there because it's something that, it's another one of those gray areas. It's ambiguous, right? You know what I mean? They want their cake and they want to eat it too. And that's why they just want to keep it buried, because then they're not going to want to change it. That's right. By keeping this buried, people, by not investigating these things that I've been talking about, right? Then they want it to continue. They want more orphans, right? So they can come back and say, let me help you, right? They want more just, injury. Because they don't want to change the legislation. They don't want to clean up the swamp. So by dragging it out just a little longer, you know, it puts it right where it's supposed to be with the kids, right? Kids are kids, whether it was ShaMay, Ciera, well, Uncle John wasn't a kid, but by the time they were done with him, he was basically reduced down to an infant in terms of brain capacity, all right? Obviously, children who can't defend themselves don't even have parents to help them. They need to build in legislation to prevent that from happening in the first place, people. And there's certain things that they can do. Instead of propping up drug addiction, they should be giving more money to the cops to start putting people in fucking jail for murdering people with drugs. That's a big one. Importing drugs, that's another one, right? Huh? There's things that they could do, and they're not doing it. Why? Because they want those orphans so they can come back and say, let me help you on our terms. Not on your terms. You're the injured family. It doesn't matter, okay? Because we're the ones providing the resources to you, so you take what we give you. It's how about what we need. And many of us, we just need justice. Start with the justice part of it first. And then build in the program. So I'm really hoping that the government can understand this and take their opportunity, their little window of opportunity to bring in sound legislation. This is the government. They write legislation. Right? So, you know, this gives them an opportunity to write in legislation to build in their programs to prevent these things from happening, right? In terms of leadership that actually does what it says it's going to do in terms of walking the talk, or otherwise what's going to end up happening is in 4 years from now, we're going to have another election and people are going to be fed up with propping up, in a nutshell, drug addiction without dealing with the criminal activity around it. And they're going to clean out the NDP, wipe them out, people, and bring in a landslide BC Liberal government again. And if people think the economy is messed up right now, and it's hard, especially for those below a lower income level, you know, bracket, oh my God, it's going to get rough. Okay, it's going to get rough. And the NDP won't be able to do anything about it any more than they could have done anything about bringing in a universal school meal program. So if they're the nice guys, like they like to purport themselves to be, we're nice, we're the NDP, or you know, we bend in the wind. Well, here's your opportunity to bend in the wind. You got a year and a half to fucking figure it out and start thinking how you want to rewrite some legislation to make it so that families are actually protected in our community, whether those predators are coming in from the public union sector itself through these sleeper cells and the government's not aware of it, or whether it's coming in off the fucking airplane. Or whether it's in the neighborhood directly, regardless of the ethnic heritage that's involved. And we'll get into that another day.